cultures, and even other cultures are even coming into these United States are learning more, than us. So, we have to get past that, just working and spending money, and then
Hmm.
just a constant cycle. And what I like to call it the hamster on the wheel. You,
Absolutely.
the hamster on the wheel keep going fast at full speed, but not going anywhere. That is us as a culture, as a community. So
Absolutely.
this is the purpose of this show, and this is the purpose that I think we had this brainstorm a week ago,
Yes.
probably about a week ago.
Yeah. Well, actually, you came up
Right.
with the idea. It's been a
Yeah.
little bit longer than
Probably
that.
about 2 weeks or 2, 3 weeks maybe. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm glad you did because
Uh-huh.
Tony, Aaron came to me and he says,
Mhm.
"Man, look, you have the platform. You have the platform. Why don't we have a show and let's talk about money?" I said, "Duh, okay, absolutely." Now I
Yeah.
do have a show that comes on Wednesdays and it's called "The World on Finance." Where I would give some information. We also have a tax expert that does that show on Wednesday. So I primarily, since we came back on the East Coast, primarily let him take that over. But I did participate in that. But I
Mhm.
think this one right here will be far reaching,
Mhm.
much more than that particular show is. And both are necessary. Tony, I'm going to ask you a question.
Mhm.
Why do you think it is that we have not been able to get the necessary education and be able to educate our children and young adults and even adults about this very subject that we're talking about?
Well, it starts at the dinner table. I mean, for one, I think, you should have these discussions with your children. First off, number one, teaching your children to save money, for one. That's where it starts from.
Hmm.
Definitely, and teaching them to earn money too as well. It could be anything. It could be washing dishes, anything. Where they can kind of get a feel of understanding. Hey, look, I did this to make this. You know, and then after that, you teach your children basically how to, make their money talk and build a relationship with their finances. And you build a relationship with your finances basically by, life insurance. Investing your money into index funds, ETFs, and along with stocks too as well. Because again, like I say, you're never going to make any money or even be to a point where you can be comfortable until you're making money in your sleep. And so I think it's really important that people get a real good understanding that it's not just a 9 to 5 job. Because I look at the financial equation. If you look at, money equals, a salary, uh, you know, earned by a job, And so again, I think it's regulated by that job or that organization on basically how much money you're going to make if you make it within an hour or if you make that within a year. You know what I'm saying? So again, I like to close the spread between money and time and teach people actually how to have an income and a strong portfolio in the market where they can get up in the morning and take a look at their account and they've made money. So they've made money in their sleep. So I think it's very important that people find other ways to, build a relationship with their money by investing it, by saving it,
Hmm.
and by storing it away over a period of time as it gains a percentage and it starts to grow, and basically you've retired, you set yourself up for retirement, and basically like after again, you're in a comfortable setting, now because now you see your money working for you and you see it talking for you.
Absolutely. I tell you what, like a lot of, and also we need to tell our children, I tell you what, like a lot of children these days, the parents give them an allowance. Okay.
Hmm.
Or they like say they may do some chores around the house or whatever it is. I think it's important that the first thing that you do, if you're going to do that, it says, okay, you can take half of this money and spend it, but we're going to go down to the bank and we're going to take the other half, we're going to put it in the bank. Okay.
Hmm.
And see, I tell you, TV and advertising stuff like it has been a terrible disservice to our children because everybody wants to get the bling, get that big watch, get that gold chain,
Yeah.
and these type of things. And guess what? There's no return on that investment.
Hmm.
There is no return on investment. Yeah, it might look good. Depends on what it is. Okay, but there's you get no return on that. So I think that what we need to do is at an early age teach financial responsibility. I'll give you a little story, and it's not related to money, but in a way it is. Is that a good friend of mine, Robert Brown, Robert Dalen Brown. He was on our program, the 7 o'clock program, which is called Groove Swing Speaks. That's another great show that you want to listen to, and that comes in at 7 p.m. on the East Coast, 4 p.m. on the West. And he was reading at the age of 2.
Mm.
Now that didn't happen by accident. At the age, at the age of 2, it wasn't that he went to the bookshelf and pulled the book out. Okay, his mom was reading with him before he could even talk. She used to read while he was in the womb, right? And when he came out, she started reading to him, teaching him his ABCs. And by the age of 2, he was reading. So these are some habits that we need to get our children into. So if we can indoctrinate them that says, look, you've got $10, okay? Spend 5 if you want to. We're going to save 5. Get them used to it and make it fun. Also what I used to do when I was in California, I used to go around to the elementary schools. I used to go around to the middle schools. I used to go around to the high schools. And I used to talk and teach financial literacy. I would go to the bank and I would get 30 gold pieces, gold dollars. And I would go into the elementary school or the middle schools or the high schools or whatever it is. And I would teach them about the Dow Jones 30. And I would give them some information, have them take notes, and then I would have a little quiz. And at the end of that, I would give out $1 to everyone who got the answer right on certain things. Well, I walked in with $30 In most cases, when I walked out, I didn't have any. These kids, they were really into it. And I used to get letters and kids telling me, says, you know what, I'm going to tell my dad and my mom, they need to open up an RRA. Okay. And you say, well, or we need to open up this account, or we need to buy some stock. And they used to get really, really interested in it. Children, when you start talking about money and how it can grow for them, and you make it fun for them, then they can get into the habit of doing that. And that's what we need to do to educate our children. Like I said, I used to do this on my own. It's not taught in our public schools. I don't know about what they do in private schools. I've never attended one. But I know that a lot of parents used to come into my office when I was at Morgan Stanley, for instance, and they would bring their children with them, Tony.
Mhm.
And these were other cultures. They would bring their children with them. They would
Mhm.
purchase stock with them. And I used to talk to these children, and I was surprised, Aaron, how much they knew,
Mhm. Mhm.
because the parents would have that conversation with them. And that is the whole gist of our Money Talk radio show. Let's talk about something else here. And then I'm going to get into Tony, because Tony, let's say his investment practices are a little more sophisticated, or a lot more in a lot of cases. Okay. And there's some risk involved. What I talked about earlier was life insurance. There's no risk involved there. And also, I'm a fan of indexed annuities. So somebody said, well, what is that? Well, let's break down what is an annuity. Okay. An annuity is a vehicle and it's tax sheltered, meaning that you don't pay taxes on that money until it comes out. So that's an advantage there, because if your money isn't taxed while it's growing, then you have a better chance of making more money. I mean, you can look at the statistics lays it all out for you. Okay. Let's say, for instance, I have $10,000 and I have $10,000 in stocks. Now, I'm not opposed to stocks at all, because, like I said, I used to be a stockbroker. I'm not opposed to that. But let's say, Tony and Aaron, I have $10,000 that I'm investing into stocks. Okay. And it's just in a stock account. Well, if I make money off of that, I'm gonna have to pay taxes on that following year. I'm gonna have to pay taxes on it. Okay. If I have put that money into an annuity, then that money is not taxable until it comes out. And non-tax money, even though I'm gonna have to pay taxes on it later, it's gonna grow faster. Okay, you can look it up. You can even do the math. Okay, you can do that. So what an annuity is, I would call it a tax sheltered account. You put it in there, and you have sub accounts. A sub account is a fancy name for mutual fund. We'll break that down a little bit later for you as well. Okay, you put it in that, and then if the investments go up, obviously you will get the gains. And when it comes to an index annuity, and especially the types that I use, if the market goes down, you do not lose.
Mhm.
I hear people say, how is that possible? If the market goes up, you will get the gains. Okay. Now, the company's going to take a haircut, because they're taking all the risk. Okay. But if it goes down, you do not lose it. Okay. And I use that a lot for my people who want to retire and they have retirement accounts. Or let's say, for instance, they just have money that they want to invest. They don't want it in the bank. We know CDs aren't paying any money. Savings accounts are not really paying any money. Okay. And you look at if you have savings accounts out there, how much interest, how much interest did you make this year off your savings account? 1/2 of 1%?
Point something, point.
Yeah, point
Uh,
something.
0.02%.
Yeah. So I love this because number one, okay, you can put it in an account, you can name your own beneficiary, and in a lot of cases, you can get a bonus on that money going in. And it could range anywhere, depends on the company or the type of annuity that you get. I mean, the company that you get, that could be anywhere from 1 to 10% in some cases. I think the 10% is hard to get these days, but I do have exposure to, or you can be exposed to those that I use, and you can get up to a 5% bonus. Let's say you had a rollover, you had a 401k, and you rolled your money into that. And then what is 5% on $1 million? Something like that. That's like $50,000, isn't it? Sounds like
Yeah,
$50,000 to me.
yeah.
Okay. So you automatically got a bump on your money.
Mhm.
And then
Yeah.
your money is compounded when you make your gains, you see.
Mhm.
And again, let's say it's a bad year that goes down. Well, guess what? You still got your $1,050,000. It does, you will not lose a dime. So I'm a big fan of indexed annuities. Okay. Then also you have your mutual funds out there where you can invest in that. However, there's some risk involved in that because if the market goes down, you could lose some of your money. That is a mutual fund. What
Mhm.
is a mutual fund? A mutual fund can be a mixture of stocks, bonds, and some cash in a lot of those.
Mhm.
Okay. So your stocks, bonds, and some cash, your mutual funds. And we're going to go over this over and over again because I know some of you may be hearing this for the first time. Some of you may not be that familiar with it or have an idea on what you're doing. You will buy something because your friend bought it. Okay. Or somebody says, hey, you need to buy this or buy that. All right. So anyway, let's get to Tony a little bit, and we will
Mhm.
come back with some more of these, and we've got a little time. Tony, you, I would say, I just met Tony over the weekend, right? We had a chance of having a really good time at this Jonathan Butler concert down in Norfolk. And Tony and I, we just started, I don't know, we just started talking about what we did for a living. And ironically, he and I share a lot of the same of the same interests, right? As far as investing is concerned. And I would call Tony one of our more sophisticated investors. Tony, you were telling me earlier that you just don't randomly pick something. You do your research. So
Yes.
tell us about the types of investing that you do
Uh,
and break it down for the audience so they can understand it.
Sounds good. Thanks. So most of the investing, I think the important thing is, like I said again, anytime when it comes to money, you got to do a little bit of legwork. Uh, Say for example, you're putting money in the bank, you got to take it to the bank to actually put it in there. Um, when it comes to how I observe stocks and how I pick really good plays out, is basically I look at the performance of that stock over a period of time, along with the most important thing, which is the balance sheet. The balance sheet is the heartbeat of any company. When people look at a balance sheet or income statement, uh, it's a lot of numbers and a lot of math that's involved with it. I like to kind of simplify it. I think really when you look at a balance sheet, and I'm not going to say I think I know, when you look at a balance sheet, you're looking for three things. You're looking for the current ratio, which is the overall performance and movement, basically, of the stock as a whole. Quick ratio. The quick ratio is probably the most important to me because just in case of a recession or maybe a loss of funds or a situation with the company can make a quick move to jump back from any crisis that's going on within the company, which is very important too. A company like that, I'm definitely buying on the low side. I'm also looking at the stock price and basically whether that company is undervalued or overvalued. I buy my stocks undervalued.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very important to buy them undervalued because, like I say again, a lot of people they look at these stocks, and I think what scares away the general public is a lot of these stocks are household name stocks. For one, you have Apple, you have Google, which Google and Apple did stock splits, so they look a little more attractive to the general public. Because at one time Google was almost $3,000, if not what $3,000, and
Mm-hmm.
you got Amazon that was also around that figure or whatnot, which is really too high for the novice investor to invest in because of how much it is. And if you are buying it, you're buying it in fractions, and if it does move, you're not making as much money as you would if you buy the whole stock itself.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I think now a lot of the companies are doing what they call forward splits, which is good.
Repeat that.
Uh, Forward splits,
Forward splits. Yeah.
Forward splits. Okay.
yes, forward splits are very, very attractive because if a company does a 10-to-1,
Mm.
that's a positive move. If
Mhm.
a company does say for example, let's say a 1-to-10, that's a reverse stock split,
Mm-hmm.
which
Mm-hmm.
is negative, you see. And so, again, I think it's always important to check into a stock's background by checking the balance sheet. Like I said, again, the balance sheet is the heartbeat of any stock. That is the first place that I look and I do my investigating and my studies into whether or not you should buy a stock. Now, usually a current ratio, just for the audience out there, if you buy a stock, the current ratio needs to be 1.5, and your quick ratio needs to be 1.0, and your cash flow, which I didn't mention just yet, which is also very important too, and let your audience know that it's important to look at the cash flow of the company because that lets you know that the company is bringing in funding. You see, because if a company is not bringing in the proper funding and they don't have cash flow, guess what's going to happen to that company? It's
That's
going
right.
to be
Yeah.
I think it's very important that people also. I think it's a simpler way of looking at balance sheets is always looking at that and get, like I said, the risk tolerance, of course. Um, like I said again, you got your balance sheet. Then you have you have the company's investments too as well.
Mm-hmm.
So what people don't know is companies also invest too. You know,
They
and
do.
so
Mhm.
that's also important too because one thing that I never would have believed, but Apple invests in Amazon,
I
and
Mhm.
didn't
every
know that.
yeah, and they all go hand in hand. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And
Mhm.
so I think that's very important that people notice. Hey, look, these companies are investing the same way or similar ways that I am. You know, and which is why also one of the biggest ways of my investments is also looking at the portfolios of the big institutional investors, which is one my favorite BlackRock and Blackstone are my two favorite portfolios that I watch on a daily basis to keep up with the movement and the sale of stocks, or whether it's bonds or whether it's ETFs, which is a basket of top stocks, which is very important too as well. If people just want to, if they don't feel like they want to buy individual stocks, they can invest in an ETF, which makes it a whole
Okay.
lot
Hey,
easier.
break it down for the audience. What is an ETF?
ETF is an exchange traded fund,
Hmm.
uh, which a lot of the institutional investors, I believe, think that is a great way to invest in the market because you invest in it as a whole, whether it's a technology, AI, uh, group of stocks where they can just say, hey, you know what, we're not going to choose the individual stocks. We're just going to invest in a basket of stocks, because you keep more balance in your portfolio by buying a lot of the ETFs because there's just a basket of stocks that basically keep you buffered, you know. Um, and again, like I say, I think also too, it's important that people watch the S&P 500. When I was coming up, I always thought the Dow Jones 30 was just the top notch thing, the only
Right.
thing for investing. When I was younger, hey, look at the Dow Jones. Hey, everybody will always say, hey, the Dow Jones is crashing, but I never heard anything about the S&P 500.
Hmm.
Well, the S&P 500 is your key point, basically, to the U.S. market. 500 stocks and ETFs in its portfolio, and basically it's kind of, I look at the S&P 500 as part of the global movement for the stock market, basically because it has a basket of even global stocks in it too as well. That people, if they want to diversify is very important when you build in a portfolio. Uh, Basic materials, you have technology communication, you have utilities, you have energy, you have oil. And if people want to build a structured portfolio, I think that they should dabble in each one of those sectors as
Hmm.
the S&P has, which is why the S&P stays as stable as it does
Hmm.
in the market.
Absolutely. You said a lot there, and you're right, because I put at least a percentage. Like even when I'm doing
Mhm.
index annuities, I put a percentage or suggest a percentage of the S&P 500 into uh, into my client's portfolio. And I'll
Mhm.
tell them why, for the very reason that you said, and that is to give your portfolio balance.
Mhm.
Because, like you said, there's 500 stocks in the S&P 500,
Yes.
500, and it's
Mhm.
all over the place, right? So, and if you look at the S&P 500 over all of the last 10 years, it always has been positive. You can go
Positive.
back 15, 20 years, it's always positive. You
Mhm. Mhm.
mentioned something earlier also that a lot of people don't realize, and you talked about institutional investors. And you and I, we had a chat on that too, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, 1,000%. See, we say, let's say you and I and Aaron, uh, we put some money, we buy some stock,
Mhm.
okay, and we should not be fooled by thinking that because we bought the stock or we sold the stock that it affects the market. It really doesn't. It really
It
doesn't.
does.
The
It does.
institutional investors, like you said, that put millions and millions of dollars
Mhm.
into that stock, that's what
Mhm.
drives the market.
Mhm.
Now, if they buy millions of dollars of stock, that stock is going to go up.
Mhm.
And
Absolutely.
what happens if the stock, if they pull their money out or they sold?
That stock
Now
goes down.
it's going to go down. It's going
Yes.
to go down.
Yes. Yes.
It's just like a run on banks. People start
Yes.
putting the money out of the bank is going to collapse.
It's gonna
Okay.
collapse.
These
Absolutely.
institutional investors, so it's important to find out, like you say, you look at BlackRock and you kind of
Mhm.
look at what they're doing, right? You
Mhm.
want to you want to play the way the players are playing, all right?
Exactly.
Look at what they are doing.
Mhm.
Uh, it's just like a lot of people don't realize it, but a large percentage of Warren Buffett's portfolio is into annuities, index annuities.
Mhm.
A lot of
Mhm.
people don't realize that. So one of the richest guys in the world, he invests in index annuities. Well, shucks, man, I might want to look at to see what he's doing. All right. And he
Yeah.
didn't get there just by happenstance. It's
Yeah.
because he had a strategy, and that seemed to be the strategy he's looking at. So people pay close attention. Now, something else, Tony, we talked about earlier too,
Mhm.
the price of Google. Um,
Yes.
if I remember, was it Google? And there was one other that I'm thinking about. This huge company. And they started off as a penny stock, I believe. I think Google started off as a penny stock. You can fact check me on that, but I believe it was Google and was one other huge company that started off, and they started off at a penny stock. And look
Mhm.
at what it is now. I'm going
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
double check that, but I'm
And
also
you're not talking about Amazon, is it?
uh,
You're not talking about Amazon, is it?
could be
Yeah,
Amazon as
we
well.
had to Google that one.
Yeah,
We
but
had to Google
we're
that.
gonna Google that.
Yeah,
We don't want to
yeah,
give out. We
right.
don't want to disseminate
No,
any
no,
false
no, no,
information
no. We're
here.
not doing
Well,
that.
well, we know that Amazon. We know that Amazon started out as a bookstore, and it
Yeah,
It
started
did.
out
yeah.
the garage of uh,
Hmm.
Joe's parents' garage.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Um, that's these type of stories are the stories that I love because it actually gives the general public hope and where they can see into ways where you can generate income. You know, like I said again, you sit people down and you ask them, you say, well, what is it that you love to do? Everybody, I believe, has talents, you see, uh, that they can use to give back to the market. uh,
Hmm.
Jeff Bezos, he gave back, selling books, you know, and I mean, I think that's just amazing how he started from zero, and made it to what he is now today, just starting out of the garage of his parents' house. I
That's
mean, I
right.
think that is what these are the stories that the general public needs to hear. That you don't have to start here. You don't have to be born with a silver spoon in your mouth. It could be anybody that can get out there and learn to invest and make money in their sleep. It is the same thing that he has done. And because of it, because he believed in it, he put himself out there and took a risk. You see what I'm saying? He took a risk and even at times looked just like a fool. And sometimes you got to put yourself out there like that. You just have to have courage.
No
That's
question.
all.
Right.
No
You
question.
know, and now he's completely closed the spread between time and money, and he makes money whenever he wants to.
Let me throw this question out, Tony. Say if you have someone who's interested in stocks and the
Mhm.
whole everything what you speak of. So
Mhm.
how would the average person
Mhm.
get started?
I think the average person would get started basically for one. Now I'm going to say my favorite. Uh, I would start with Fidelity. I absolutely love Fidelity.
Hmm.
Fidelity is definitely my favorite platform for getting into buying and purchasing stocks because not only can you buy and purchase stocks, you can also purchase 401k plans and many other things that you guys were discussing, William and Aaron, about the building annuities and everything like that. Because like I said, it just goes over an array of different ways to be able to get your money working for you.
Hmm.
Um, I would start there, and I've done this before. Showing people basically how you start an account, just a basic account where you can look at all the stocks. It's just like taking your child to the bank.
Hmm.
You're teaching them and you're showing them
Hmm.
and get on a platform and then do your own research. Now, uh, I would start slow. We start with one stock, and then we start with two. And basically, I would probably find out what their interest is. What do you love? Do you love cars? Do you love shoes? Tell me where your interest is, and that's where we would probably focus our attention as far as what stocks they would like to buy. Like you know, people like tennis shoes. Uh, we probably look at, say, for example, Nike. You know, let them purchase Nike. Kind of get a feel of it. And then get in the habit. Hey, look, the market's down. Make a purchase. The market's going to come back. The market is very cyclic. It's always going to return. You
Hmm.
Hmm.
know, that's where I would start them. Is basically really, uh, get on a platform. Start with a platform. Take a look at the market because I would tell them, hey, listen to the market. Listen to the heartbeat of the market. Watch the market. If you're interested in getting your money working for you. Because again, I think that the most important thing is to give people control of their money. You
Hmm.
see, and I think that's also very important too, because if they're building a portfolio and they can buy shares and stocks whenever they decide they want to buy it or when they feel comfortable, that gives them more control. And I think that gives them a sense of purpose. You see, and that's what people need, and that's what children need, is a sense of purpose, and something that they can follow on a daily basis. Because once they get started with one, and that stock moves, it
Right.
inspires you
Mhm.
to,
Now you, yeah.
okay,
Absolutely.
so now I'm going to buy my second share. You see, wow, I have this much control. Well, I thought it was the institutional investors that had all the control over the market.
Mhm.
I thought it was the 401k plan. I thought I was investing when I was investing with my job for 401k. No,
Mhm.
sir, you're not. Because at the end of the year, you got to pay an expense ratio.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah.
you know,
Right.
And
and
that, go
yeah.
ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Uh,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
just right quick.
Go ahead.
And that's actually a good point because when you're on like a 9 to 5 job,
Mhm.
they talk about sign up for the 401k, whatever, and they just give you a form, say, okay, this is what you're invested in. Boom, 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 bam, and that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
That's
You
it.
you don't know.
Look, you invest in it without your consent.
Right. Yeah, you don't
Because you
know. You
wake
don't
up
know.
and you look and wait a
Hmm.
minute, $200 a check, you know,
Hmm.
and that's something I just look at as I believe that people instead of institution, steering my money in the market. Because what's funny about the market is that when people do these 401k plans, guess what they are? They're nothing but ETFs, exchange traded funds. And again, like I say, if the market bottoms out, guess what happens to your money? Your money also bottoms out too as well. So what's the difference in you putting your money in your own portfolio than them steering your money?
Having control.
Absolutely. Hey, tell us,
Having
how much does it cost to open up a Fidelity stock account?
That was my next
zero,
question.
zero.
Oh.
It
Hmm.
costs
It costs
zero
you nothing to
for
open up one.
Right.
zero.
Okay.
Yes,
That
you can start it with zero funding. No money at all. You start your account and you slowly start to buy your shares as you put money in. If you want to put 20 in, it's up to you. You can start a Fidelity account with zero funding.
right, right. Well, when I first started a couple of decades ago at the stock market, I started. I started as a stockbroker. I was with Morgan Stanley, and
Mhm.
you come into my office, we would charge you. Uh,
Mhm.
we'll charge you a and it wasn't zero. I can tell
Mhm.
you that to open up an investment account. And
Mhm.
it sort of reminds me of when cell phones first came out. It was expensive to have a cell phone. You were paying
It
what,
was.
45 cents per call? I mean, just something
Yes.
insane. But
Yes.
the powers to be figured out a way they can
Mhm.
still make a ton of money off of you,
Mhm.
right? And guess what? It doesn't cost you anything for that phone call, but you have to pay that monthly bill. You pay
Exactly.
that monthly
Exactly.
bill, right? And
Exactly.
it was a matter of numbers and the power in numbers. Okay.
Yes.
That way they attracted a lot more people to
Mhm.
purchase that plan each and every month than it was to try to sell a few phones here and charge them 45 cents. And because a lot of people say, no, look, I can't do that. That's way 45 cents a call is
Mhm.
as much as I like to talk. And no, I can't do that.
Mhm.
And then you went to the basic principle of supply and demand
That's it.
Mhm.
because
Exactly.
years ago I got a quick cell
Yeah.
phone store. I had a buddy of mine who worked, it was GTE at the time, but it turned to Verizon. He was doing the cell phone. This is probably back in the '90s when
Hmm.
mainly professional people had them. This you had to have, like you said, 45 cent a minute. Your average person didn't have them. He told me, I still remember this story in 2024, and this had been probably in '95. He told me, he said it's gonna be one day everybody's gonna have a cell phone.
Wow.
And I
Mhm.
told him, I say, you crazy. Nobody's gonna do that. And this is
Mhm.
back in the time when you had pay phones on every corner, everything. But he told me
Mhm.
this back in the mid '90s, working for GTE at the time, which it eventually turned to Verizon Wireless. That
Mhm.
it would be one day that everyone gonna have a cell phone. And look
And
where
you
we
know what else they're going to have too?
are.
They're going
Mm-hmm.
to have electric cars, and
And
Mm.
your cars are going to be manipulated by a Wi-Fi signal that comes from a satellite. And guess what? You don't make your car payment. Guess what happens to your car? It
Mm-hmm.
shuts off. And again, like I say,
Yeah.
and it's interesting what you said earlier, William, about numbers. And numbers are very important. And Nicholas Tesla knew that numbers rule
Mm.
the world. And the three numbers that rule the world is 3, 6, and 9. I don't want to
I
get off
heard
the
that.
subject. And it's funny because, numbers circle the universe. The universe is made up of calculations and codes of numbers. not letters, numbers.
Hmm.
Deep.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Now let's go back over something. Okay, you
Mhm.
said that, and I'm paraphrasing. The most important three numbers are 3, 6, and 9.
Yes.
Why is that so?
Those three numbers were very, very important to Nikola Tesla. And he was able to create a machine off of those three numbers. And it is a code, and it's a revolving code because those three numbers do 360 degrees. And
Mm.
like I said, it is an activity that he noticed about those three numbers, whether it's a frequency, whether it's atmospheric energy, and he used that to actually be able to start up a machine with energy,
Hmm.
but with those three numbers, which were very important to him.
That is
Um, how
Definitely.
he was able to use those three numbers to start up a machine, I have absolutely no idea.
right.
Again, like I said, that was genius. He put his whole life into understanding matter, atmospheric focus, and basically frequencies. Because like I say again, frequencies. There's always there's sounds, there's vibrations. I believe that
Absolutely.
keep us uh, in a certain state and a certain mood too as well. It also helps us sleep.
Hmm.
Um, like I say again, it's calculations that I do believe only the man, which is the big boss above, really understands.
Mm.
Um, uh, it's very fascinating.
It
Um,
is fascinating.
Definitely.
it is
If you
very.
think about it, the world runs on numbers.
Mhm.
It
Okay,
does.
you've
Yeah,
got days of the week, you got hours in the day,
exactly.
everything,
Hmm.
time,
Hmm.
birthdays.
Hmm.
When you wake up at a certain time,
Yeah,
everything runs on numbers, and I think
it
that's
does.
something that's underrated. And what are we talking about today? When we're talking about building your financial wealth or building generational wealth, or
Hmm.
and also building a portfolio,
Hmm.
use a sound investment advice, financial strategies. And we're talking about numbers, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
That's exactly what we're talking about. Now let's talk about when you build a portfolio. You mentioned earlier also. Now your portfolio, you have more than one, uh, let's say, uh, let's say security in your portfolio,
Hmm.
and I can tell by speaking to you last Friday and also today that you believe and you weigh and believe heavily in diversification.
Yeah.
Share this with us. Why is it so important to diversify?
Again, like I said, the market, even though it's very cyclic. Again, diversification in the portfolio is very important because, like I said, the S&P is a basket of sectors, whether it's basic materials, whether it's energy, whether it's utilities, and this is for the audience out there. Again, whether it's technology, communication technology, um, uh, cyclical, which is vehicles, and basic, I already said basic materials. I'm sorry. Consumer goods, which is
Mhm.
also very important too, as well, because I look at the sectors first that we need to run the economy. Uh, uh, Consumer goods is definitely are important and stable diversification in a portfolio, I do believe, because again, like I say, consumer goods revolves around our canned goods, our foods, things that we consume on a daily basis, things that we need on a daily basis, which keeps strong balance in a portfolio.
Mhm.
Uh, and I would definitely say, like I say, consumer discretionary. That's the word I was looking for,
Mhm.
which is our furniture, which is our cars, uh, you know, which we do purchase when we move, when we drive, when we, get out in the community or whatever, which is very important too as well. So energy is a big one too. That's very important too, because like I said, again, you walk in your room and you turn your light on, you ain't got no energy, you calling the energy company right away.
Right.
So I look at it from an importance of necessity. So I would tell my viewers definitely to basically from day to day when you walk in your house, observe yourself, and we are always naturally geared towards observing other things and other people. Walk into your house and observe yourself. Look at what is the first thing you do when you enter your house. You kick your shoes off. Like I said, you grab the remote control. You sit in your recliner. And you recline back.
Mm-hmm.
You go to your refrigerator. You open it. Electricity. So you can see what you grab and what if you want this canned good over here or a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. These are the things that you grab. You want to be able to see it. So basically, everything in the market. That's why I always tell people to listen to the market, listen to the heartbeat of the market. And get a good understanding of how the market is moving and what's important to the market. Then what's important to you? What do you buy on a regular basis? You see, so observe yourself and you're a consumer. We're retail investors out here. Not institutional investors, but retail investors. We don't buy millions and millions of shares of stocks. We just kind of come in and just make a purchase. Follow behind the institutions. Look at their portfolio. BlackRock buys 36% of AI. 36%.
Wow, that's incredible.
Portfolio is AI.
30%.
36%.
36%.
36%. And it may have gone up because remember, they have the top investors. The top investors and institutional investors that make these purchases. So again, and also one of the other big ones too, I believe is 27% of their portfolio, which is fintech. Fintech is financial technology. We use financial technology every single day, whether it's your banking apps, it's Cash App. Now you can transfer money within seconds. Everything is based on convenience, and your portfolio should be based on the same thing. Everything that is convenient for you is convenient for the market, is convenient for the institutional investors to invest into as well. And I think it's very important that people look at observing themselves and what they do on a daily basis. Look at the sectors, sector it out, diversify your portfolio for the most important things that you do on a daily basis, all the way down to the least important things that you do, up until recreation and everything. So when you building your portfolio, don't observe everybody else. Observe yourself.
You said something very interesting because you look at what you like. What are people buying? I'm talking about not only in the market, but let's say when the grocery store, what are you buying? Or are you shopping? What are you buying? What are people buying? And that gives you an idea, a reflection on what people are investing in. So, and staple goods, you big on staple goods?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why is that?
Staple goods. I think it's very important. I think, but I would say definitely when you say the same for mostly for a need and maybe convenience too as well. Yeah.
Yeah, the things we use the most. Man, we've there's a lot to unpack here. And so that's why we're going to ask you to come back sometime too at your convenience, Tony. Wealth of knowledge. It's one thing I want to kind of recap a little bit too, because there's so many things that we want to talk about. And I want to add a few other things. I had another caveat here. There's so much to the market in addition to the Dow Jones, the S&P 500, the NASDAQ. You got the Russell 2000 and the Wilshire 5000. Those are all indices. Okay. Like we talk about, what is an index? Well, the Dow Jones is an index because it is a conglomerate of stocks. The S&P 500, there's 500 stocks in there. And the Wilshire, like I said, the Russell 2000, the Wilshire 5000. So it may sound a little foreign to you guys right now, but from week to week, we're going to break this down for you because Aaron and I and Tony, we're talking about different things and different ways to invest. Now, our specialty here with Aaron and I, we deal mostly with safer investments. So, like I
Mhm.
said, life insurance and annuities where you cannot lose your money. You
Mhm.
see, life insurance, you can't lose your money. And I'm going to advise if you have young children,
Mhm.
what I would do also, I would teach them about what we're trying to teach you. Sit them around the radio and let them listen. Let's get them started at an early age. But what I also would advise at a very young age, 1, 2, 3 years old, buy them a whole life policy.
Absolutely.
Get them a whole life policy.
Mhm.
And I'm going to tell you why, because it will never be cheaper for them. The older you get, the more expensive it's going to be. Then also, it will build cash for them. They'll
Mhm.
build cash. You can add cash to it. It's like a forced savings account, and you
Mhm.
don't want to take it out unless it's absolutely necessary. That's what I would do.
Mhm.
Also, open up a Fidelity account, like Tony said, and look at some of these things we talk about, where we're talking about fintech, financial technology, or
Mhm.
AI, because I'm telling you, the world is going in that direction right now. So we might as well get on that train. Okay, get on
Mhm.
that train with it.
Mhm.
There's some other things out here that we haven't uncovered. The weeks to come, we're going to also talk about some more risky investments. Now, we're going to let you know that when an investment is risky, has risk to it, some have carry more risk than others.
Mhm.
Okay, like if you buy an individual stock, there's some risk involved in that, and
Mhm.
any broker worth his salt will tell you, "Hey, this you could lose some of your money here. You could
Mhm.
lose it." You have to let your audience know. You have to let your clients know that there's risk involved and it's a possibility they could lose. Okay.
Yes.
You've got things like options out here.
Mhm.
Uh, what is an option? An option is that I'm betting that the market goes up or betting that it goes down. We'll break that down in the weeks and months to come. You have margins. What is a margin? That's where, hey, I got $100,000. I could go to this institution and they will loan me another 100,000. Okay. The risk there is I don't want to go down to, I can't let it go down below that threshold because I could end up losing it all. So these are extremely risky investments, very
Yes.
risky investments. So
Yes.
you determine what type of investor are you? Are you a no risk investor? Well, if you're a no risk investor, then you want to look at things like Aaron and I talk about, like annuities, especially indexed annuities and life insurance and things of that nature. Okay, you want to do that. Now, if you say, "Well, look, I don't mind gambling a little bit," then you might want to get into stocks. Get into stocks. They say, I'm a risk taker. I don't care. Let's go for it. Balls to the wall. We're gonna do this thing, right? And then you will look at things like like Tony was talking about,
Mhm.
or like I was talking about options and margins and things of that nature. Very sophisticated investment. So
Mhm.
if you want to get into those things, you really need to do your homework. Hey, Aaron, I can't believe Tony. We are out of time.
But the thing about this is like we talk about. This is us at a dinner table, and we will be at the dinner table every week for an
Every
hour, hour power,
Awesome.
the hour,
hour power,
hour power. I like that.
hour power at
Hey,
the dinner table. Educate.
hey, Tony, thank you so
Thank
much,
you
my
so
friend.
much.
Thank
That
I,
was
you. Thank you,
man,
Aaron. Thank you, William, so much
back
for having me on.
look at you. You're welcome back to the table next week if you have time.
no. I mean,
Yes,
you know,
sir. Yes,
he's
sir.
he's gonna be off